Colorado judge continues his journey to become a justice. As President Trump nominates Denver's Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, we look at whether his idea of justice will be fair to Coloradans. We expect to be joined by Colorado's Republican Senator Cory Gardner, who will need to convince his Democratic colleagues to support Gorsuch for the court. Some of Colorado's best legal minds will join us to talk about how Gorsuch views the laws that impact our lives. And an ideological adversary turned ally takes a break from the beach to offer a long-distance endorsement. Then next rolls on through an intersection where we're so often told to watch out for bikes. Who's telling bikes to watch out for us? One of Denver's first African-American teachers shares a century's worth of wisdom about helping others and helping yourself before casting blame. And until a Denverite was nominated for the Supreme Court, this was the most Colorado thing we saw today on a special Supreme Court edition of Next. So there you have it, a Coloradan named to or nominated to the nation's highest court. President Trump picking 10th Circuit Court Judge Neil Gorsuch from Denver. A Coloradan through and through, he would be just the second Coloradan after Justice Byron White to sit on the court. In just a moment, I'll be joined by U.S. Senator Cory Gardner, who was there in the room at the White House when the pick was announced. We will also hear some surprising words complimenting Judge Gorsuch from Denver's most famous progressive trial attorney, David Lane. But first, a panel of legal experts here to discuss what we just saw and heard from the White House. Luis Toro, Executive Director of Colorado Ethics Watch, a left-leaning watchdog group. Thank you for your time. You clerked in the 10th Circuit, where Judge Gorsuch currently works, as well as Chris Murray, a local attorney in government practice. And did you clerk in the 10th? You did not clerk in the 10th.
I did clerk on the 10th Circuit.
You did clerk on the 10th.
Judge Timkovich. Yeah.
Everybody clerks on the 10th. Holy cow. Either that or we found the best minds in town. And we should mention that you are also the current president of the Lincoln Club of Colorado, the oldest Republican organization in the state, and former U.S. Attorney Mike Norton, nominated by President Reagan, if I am correct.
That's correct.
And you are now a fellow at the Conservative Centennial Institute. Thank you all for being here. Want to get the first impressions of what we heard from the president and the first words that 99.9% of Americans will have heard from Colorado Neil Gorsuch. Luis, your impressions?
I thought Judge Gorsuch handled himself very well, and it's obviously a big moment for him. I think from a bigger picture, though, this is an embarrassing time, quite honestly, for the Supreme Court. The way that this nomination was handled with poor Judge Hardiman, who I really feel sorry for right now, to be brought into this television primetime spectacle when other nominations have been made in the morning after appropriate consultation with the disappointed candidates, and even more so after the disgraceful treatment of Judge Merrick Garland, who was nominated for this seat by President Obama when it arose last year in March, and who was not even afforded the dignity of meetings with senators and much less a vote. So it's important to view this nomination not compared to Judge Scalia in my mind, but compared to Judge Merrick Garland, a true moderate that was so moderate, quite frankly, a lot of Democrats didn't like him.
And we'll get into what Democrats, including U.S. Senator Michael Bennet from Colorado, will do with this nomination in just a moment. Your thoughts on the first words that we heard from Judge Gorsuch?
Kyle, I was thrilled with the first words, mainly because that was Neil Gorsuch. Anybody who knows Judge Gorsuch knows that he is an eminently decent, humble, and forthright public servant. And I think you heard Chuck Todd on the national broadcast saying that he made a great first impression and he thought that he was going to wow any senator that he met with. I agree with that. Neil Gorsuch is the person I saw on TV was the man that those of us who have had the chance to know him and practice in front of him know, and I was very happy to see that.
One thing that Gorsuch has written before Mike Norton is that legislators can appeal to their own moral convictions when they're shaping policy, but that's something that judges should not do in a democratic society. That sounds very much like the late Justice Antonin Scalia.
Yeah, I think that's really, really critical. I mean, what I heard is, first of all, what I saw was a guy that I know to be a really warm, genuine, decent human being. And I mean, America should be proud, and Colorado should be proud that such a nice guy is going to be, perhaps at least confirmed for the bench, but has been nominated by the president. Secondly, what I heard was how well qualified this man is. I mean, he is incredibly well qualified by education, by private law practice experience, by work in the Bush Justice Department, and by 10 years on the Court of Appeals. And when President Trump was running for for office and did something very unique in history and sent up a list of 21 names from whom he would nominate. That was quite unique, I think, and Judge Gorsuch was one of those 21 names. Any one of the 21 would have been great, but he's the best. And the reason he's the best is because he is in the mold of Scalia, just as you said, in terms of being an originalist and a textualist, someone who will interpret and apply the words of the Constitution and the statute as they are written. Not look to the future and say, well, what should be done to fix this problem we have? That's a legislative matter.
Do you think Senator Bennett has room to oppose? Some Democrats are talking about a filibuster.
Well, I think absolutely he has room to consider this not as a hometown nomination. I think it would be inappropriate for a senator to make the decision strictly based on the home state love. I would expect him to take a hard look at this nomination, especially compared to Judge Merrick Garland, who was the original nominee for this seat, and make the determination whether this is a judge that's truly a mainstream judge or whether it's someone who would continue to drag the court in a direction that favors big corporations over ordinary people.
Certainly progressives are going to oppose Gorsuch. He wrote in 2005 that American liberals have become addicted to the courtroom, relying on judges and lawyers rather than elected officials at the ballot box as the primary means of affecting their social agenda. I get that there's going to be a fight. Is there a path to block him for Democrats and progressives?
I think so. Right now there's a 52-seat majority for the Republicans. When the Democrats eliminated the filibuster for lower court nominees, they preserved it for the Supreme Court for an important reason, that the Supreme Court nominee of either party should be someone who can command mainstream support. So in order to, there either have to be 8 Democrats who can be convinced that Judge Gorsuch fits that mainstream model, or there have to be 51 Republicans who are willing to change the rules and have it go by simple majority. And so there, as few as 3 Republican senators could block that rule change.
I'll ask you all to stand by. We're expecting to hear from U.S. Senator Cory Gardner very shortly now. Luis Toro and Chris Murray and Mike Norton, thank you all. Colorado's best-known trial attorney actually just finished arguing a case in Judge Gorsuch's courtroom. David Lane represented a family that was on the receiving end of a wrongful raid by Denver police. Now, Lane is a proud progressive, but he was so impressed with the way that the conservative judge handled the case, he was willing to interrupt his Jamaican vacation today to tell me this.
Judge Gorsuch was so outraged at the conduct of the Denver police officers that he made that outrage known to the city of Denver during oral argument on the appeal. And that inspired a $1.6 million settlement. So I was very gratified and heartened to see that Judge Gorsuch took a civil rights violation like this extremely seriously.
Does it pain you to have to say something so nice about a conservative?
He is a very conservative guy, but he's a very intelligent man. He is a very, very well-prepared scholar. He certainly is qualified for the job. Whether he would have been my first choice, I really seriously doubt it. But the man knows his stuff, and he's very conservative. On the list of the short list that's together, he would be my choice on that list.
Neil Gorsuch is not the first in his family to be involved in the rough and tumble of politics. You heard it mentioned at the White House event that the late Ann Gorsuch Burford, his mother, is a name that some Coloradans would recognize, the first woman who served as the director of the Environmental Protection Agency. That was under President Reagan. And she shook that place up. It's interesting, the more that I read about Judge Gorsuch's mother, the more that I think that she would be a perfect Trump nominee, very much in the mold of some of the other names that he has elevated in the last few weeks. Judge Gorsuch's mother died of cancer in 2004 when she was 62. Gorsuch spoke glowingly of the justice that he clerked for, fellow Coloradan Justice Byron White. White was born in 1917 in Fort Collins, raised in the small town of Wellington, and went, of course, to the University of Colorado, where he led the football team to its first bowl appearance. He ended up playing professional football and also baseball and basketball over the years before joining a profession where sitting on the bench is an honor, as opposed to a disappointment. Valedictorian at CU, went on to be a Rhodes Scholar, served as a naval intelligence officer during World War II, then went to Yale to get his law degree, worked his way up from a clerk to a deputy attorney general to the Supreme Court in 1962. He retired in 1993, and he passed away in 2002. You just heard me discuss with the panel the chances that Democrats are going to filibuster, as some are promising, the nomination of Judge Gorsuch. We reached out today to U.S. Senator Michael Bennet, Democrat from Colorado, to ask whether he would join such a process, and his staff did not get back to us. We had 9 News political experts Kelly Maher and Ian Silveri weigh in on tonight's pick. They quickly answered, does the selection of Judge Gorsuch make it harder for Democrats in Colorado to mobilize against him?
I think that Judge Gorsuch is a great nominee. I think he's the perfect choice. Not only is he a fourth-generation Coloradan, he's taken an articulate stand against important things like religious freedom and 80-year-old nuns not having to be forced by the federal government to pay for birth control. In addition, I think this creates a situation for Michael Bennet. However, because he just recently won re-election and he basically lives in D.C. anyway, he'll probably just do whatever the Democrats tell him to do because he doesn't have to stand for re-election.
Judge Gorsuch has something that everybody in Colorado can disagree with. I mean, he literally wrote the book on opposing the death with dignity law that Coloradans just overwhelmingly passed this November. He's hostile to women. He voted to allow employers, when he's on the 10th Circuit, to discriminate against women who chose birth control as part of their health insurance option, and decided that it was your boss's job to determine whether or not you could have that. As far as I'm concerned, I think Senator Bennet will probably take a thoughtful approach to whoever's in front of him and vote his conscience. That's all you can do these days anyway.
It has been a long road to get to this point in Neil Gorsuch's career, and now the journey is just beginning. Our Noel Brennan shows us the next steps.
Step 1. Donald Trump makes his nomination. It just happened. Neil Gorsuch, a federal judge in Denver. He will be referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee, which has a Republican majority. Step 2. The committee schedules hearings which could go on for days, and then they vote yes or no. Step 3. The full 100-member Senate votes on the nominee, who will need 60 votes. But here's where we take a sidestep. There are 52 Republicans in the Senate. That means they'd need 8 Democrats to break the filibuster. And that is where the potential nuclear step comes into play. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell could change the rules and make it so Republicans would only need a simple majority of 51 to confirm the nomination. This has never happened with any Supreme Court nominee before. Republicans would all have to be on board with this step. This whole process is going to take some time, on average 67 days. Step 1 just happened. For Next, I'm Noel Brennan.
We are beginning to get some of the first reactions from Coloradans in Congress. Now, we know that the Republicans will be uniformly in support of Judge Gorsuch's nomination. We're watching more carefully the statements coming in from Democrats. Congressman Ed Perlmutter, thought to be considering a run for governor, is the first to weigh in, writing, quote, "While I have not had a chance to review Judge Neil Gorsuch's record, I know Neil to be an honest and intelligent Coloradan." Perlmutter continues, however, "I will remain vigilant against any Supreme Court decision that turns back the clock."
Let's switch gears a bit. When a car hits a bike, it usually makes the news. When a car hits a person, same thing. But we don't often hear much about a story of a bike hitting a person. Ann Toll had never thought about it until it happened to her, and then she called us to share her story.
I was just going out of the convention center to get a Blue Bear for a friend. I was walking out of the convention center, crossing the street, and I got hit by a bicycle.
Just like that, Ann Toll found herself here in a rehab center.
Broke 5 bones, one in my wrist, 2 in my pelvis, 1 in my sacrum, and 1 in my ankle.
She'll be here for at least 5 more weeks. Then she'll be at home with specialty care there.
The pain is horrific.
Doctors say it'll be at least 4 to 6 months until that horrific pain is gone.
It's like on a scale of 8 to 9 every time I move.
A year total for her pelvis to completely heal.
I'm 78 years old, so a year out of your life at that stage is really shortens your life.
She wanted to share her story after she saw other stories about a proposed new law that would let bikes only slow down, not completely stop at red lights and stop signs.
That just scared me.
The police report says Ann had the right-of-way. The bike had a red light.
I just remember falling and hitting my head, and I remember that it bounced back up. And then I tried to get up and I couldn't.
She's hopeful her story will at least play into the conversation about the new law.
I thought, I have to make something good out of this.
And even if it doesn't impact the law, she just hopes her story will make you think.
All right, thank you.
Now, Ann says when she was in the ER, the fine folks at Denver Health told her that they see these kinds of accidents a lot. We called Denver police to back it up, but they had a glitch with their computer system. Couldn't get us the data for bicycle pedestrian accidents in the last year. When they do get that computer working, Kyle, we will share that information with you.
DVD's got a broken computer system. That sounds like a story we should cover on next.
Little computer glitch.
Yeah. We should send ourselves a news tip on that one.
Maybe we'll do is the DPD computer working.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Steve.
This is a state full of thin people and fat bikes, and it's the most Colorado thing we saw today. And when Denver goes to auction off its lost and found, things get weird, really weird.
Just here treasure hunting, really.
This is gold, trust me. Next.
The most Colorado thing we saw today is through the lens of photojournalist Mike Grady.
Most Colorado thing I've seen so far this year, easily the second annual Fat Bike World Championships in Crested Butte. There's about 200 of us who jumped on our snow-devouring fat tire bikes on a wicked cold Saturday morning. It was, about 2 degrees when we shoved off. Luckily, the cold air made the snow delicious. We gobbled it up as we looped up the epic 5.4-mile course designed and built by the Crested Butte Mountain Bike Association and the CB Chamber. Robbie Squire defended that world title he got last year, banged out 5 laps in an hour and 45 minutes, beating yours truly by a mere hour and 44 minutes. But with that rad course, amazing scenery, and gnarly competitors, you better believe I'm coming for you next year, Squire.
And more delicious snow coming for the mountains on Thursday. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. Today's sunshine and 60s for the last day of January, but increasing clouds tonight brought not only a beautiful sunset, but also the start of a bit of a change in our weather picture. A cold front is backing into northeastern Colorado tonight. Temperatures will be some 20 degrees cooler tomorrow. As a result, moisture's pretty limited with this system, all of it going up and over the top of a ridge, which is breaking down only temporarily. We'll see a little piece of energy come in tomorrow night that has a better chance of bringing us some freezing drizzle and fog. Tomorrow it's just going to be cooler and there'll be more cloud cover around the area, but no big travel issues across the city or into the Eisenhower Tunnel area. The Johnson-Eisenhower Tunnel should be just fine, as a matter of fact, with this front really affecting much of northeastern Colorado than the rest of the state. And so in the Denver metro area for tonight, partly cloudy, mild with some areas of fog east of town, lows in the mid-20s. Tomorrow will be cooler, not a bad day though, seasonal highs in the mid-40s with more cloud cover that will persist into Thursday as well. A bit of a cooling trend heading into the end of the week, but then the first full weekend of February will be warmer and drier with temperatures in the mid-50s. And it was a beautiful day in the Colorado High Country with crystal clear blue skies in Capital City.
Kathy, thanks. Can I make a recommendation where we point you towards anything that is not ours but is definitely worth your time? If you're in the market for random stuff, a taxidermied snake perhaps, middle school math books, City of Denver has a bunch of random things up for sale. Lost and found property, city surplus property. There's unclaimed and stolen property. It's the City and County of Denver Surplus Property Auction.
Coming to these events is really like treasure hunting. You don't know what's going to be here. Might be garbage, might be worth a lot, and sometimes you can get lucky and find something in the bottom of a box that nobody else saw and get it for a low bid and come out ahead.
If you can't make the auction, 8 a.m. tomorrow at 621 South Jason Street, 8 a.m., 621 South Jason Street. There's an online auction, and we have information on that in the next section on 9news.com.
A trailblazing teacher in Denver has a few lessons to share after 104 years on this earth. And next, we'll still share your feedback here, even if you don't have a century's worth of experience to back it up, especially if you're really angry with us. Next.
Marie Greenwood is living history. She's seen a few Black History months in her 104 years. She's seen many months, period. She was one of the first African-American teachers in Denver. Began teaching in 1935 at Whittier Elementary School. She's still quick to offer a lesson.
Well, you see, since my birthday was in 1912, the mathematics says I'm 104. Education has changed, and I watched it change. The first time that they had opened the doors for us, I had two goals. One, I had to keep the job. Two, I had to keep the door open for others to come in. We hear with our people so often, well, I didn't get it because I'm black. Well, if you were excelled, maybe somebody might take a good look at and see beyond your color and see what you can do. If you want to do something and you set a goal, you do it. You may have to take some detours around, but stick to your goal. You face the facts as they are, and you do everything you possibly can to not only help yourself, but to help everyone. Because helping others does an awful lot for you.
That woman is not 104 years old. We're airing a half-hour special on Black History Month Saturday night. It's February 4th. You can see it 9 to 9:30 on Channel 20. A lot of feedback from you this evening on President Trump selecting a Coloradan for the High Court, including one really striking note. That's next. It's a sign, or at least we're pretty sure that it is. It's a little bit tough to tell. We think it says, sidewalk not maintained, look close now, proceed at your own risk. Dan Corwin took these pictures on the west side of Breckenridge near the Outdoor Education Center. Yes, that would be a sign of the snow they've gotten this winter. If you have a sign that catches your attention, send it our way. Get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext or email next@9news.com. We were unable to connect as scheduled with U.S. Senator Cory Gardner. His staff tells me that he got briefly stuck in the White House tonight, which could be a metaphor, but we hope to hear from him very soon on another program. You know, here at Next, we love views that are not predictably partisan, views that are nuanced, conflicted even. Those are real opinions. And Becky Marsh writes, I will say, although I'm sickened by every single thing Trump has done to date, I'll say that his Supreme Court nominee is about as decent as we could have hoped for. Mr. Gorsuch works across the street from my office. My boss has done business with him and says he is extremely intelligent and reasonable and sensible. Sensible, Becky. That's a good word for your note. Somebody who's conflicted about what's happening in politics today. We hope to encourage those kinds of discussions next time.